Okay, they called this the era of prosperity, or as I like to call it, this is your life. When they asked me to do this, the first thing I did was look for memories. And I have a lot of memories connected with this church simply because I grew up 4 houses down on Church Street. So this is my playground. You may not have all been born and raised in First Church, but I'm sure that you have memories very similar to mine in your church as you were growing up. So as I hit some memories, maybe you can come up with some too. You're ahead of me. One thing I realized in my memories was this isn't just a building, it's the people are the church too. And one of my very first memories of First Church was walking to kindergarten. And I'd walk up here through the alley, which was an alley then, and Mr. Badgley, the janitor, was always standing in the basement window waving at me every morning. So it's the people in the church that make the church. Okay, now I'm ready for the next one. As the baby boomers arrived, it was time to grow the church for the times. Ground was broken again for a new education wing in 1959. So not only was our church growing, but Galion was growing at that time too. There was many factories and businesses going on. Uptown Galion had a Penny's and a Bennett's and a Woolworth's and a Murphy's. It was a booming town. And I was in the class of 1970 from Galion High School, which was the second largest class in history there. I think the year after they were a little bigger than us. And a new look for the Sunday schools. The expanded church footprint allowed for increased youth participation among the common age groups. This created a need for more Sunday school teachers. Perfect attendance was encouraged with special pins, added bars, and wreaths. That's quite an addition that they put on there, but every single one of those rooms were full of Sunday schools, which took a lot of teachers. Keith corrected me because I didn't list all the teachers, but I didn't have time to list all the teachers. But some that I remember was Doris Burkhart and Mary Conklin, and the trio of Pat Bass, Jan Reynolds, and Nelda Eichhorn that took care of the primary class for years and years and years. Alan Conklin taught the high school class, and I remember very fondly that his son Brian would come in and play the piano so that we could sing Sunday school songs during Sunday school. Just about, not every, but most of the rooms had pianos. We had adult Sunday school classes. There was the men's Bible class, Art Nichols, the Haynes. I think Barb Nyes was called the upper room. Yes, good, thank you. And the prodigals, we had that many. And we had a Sunday school board that was very busy and active, and they had openings once a month for the kids. This building was very modern. It was the latest thing. The floors in the nursery room were heated so that the little kids crawling around wouldn't get cold. They had built-in cribs along the wall, which I'm sorry looked like cages, but they were built in. And there are little bathrooms on 2 of the floors in between the Sunday school rooms with little bitty toilets and little bitty sinks, just right size for the kids. Okay. Growing in faith, our youth programs reach beyond the walls of Sunday school to outdoor day camps. The first Bible school was held in 1953 with 97 students registered for the 2-week school. Now, if you listen to that, 97 in 1953, and the building was built in 59. I remember that Bible school. There was a house right next door, and I think his name was Jake Johnson. He was an elderly man, took care of his wife, who was an invalid for years and years and years, and he died first shoveling snow. and she died shortly after that, and they left the house to the church. We had Vacation Bible School in that house. The house was just packed full of little kids having Bible school, and it's now a parking lot. Day camp, which was the picture up there, was started by Reverend Vilm back when I was young, but I enjoyed it so much I resurrected it at Nelda and Laverne's house. You can see Nelda Laverne is up there, and Connie Eichhorn helped with the crafts, and John Miller came out and cooked pancakes on the last day. But we built our own campsites, made our own tables, carved our own forks and spoons, cooked our own meals on the fire, and always had a Vesper area also that we built. And we don't have a picture of the youth fellowship, but the youth fellowship went to work camps, lots of work camps. We went to 2 in West Virginia, I know, and 1 in southern Ohio and Portsmouth after the flood of the Ohio River. So we did a lot of work with the work camps also. The Kiss family was sponsored by our church in 1959. They fled the Hungarian, I need to read it up here, I can't read this. They fled the Hungarian revolution and immigrated to the U.S., first stopping at Fort Kilmer, New Jersey, until their Galion home was ready. Galion First UC continued to support other wider missions during this era, like Fairhaven and UCC church camps. They lived in an upper apartment just a few houses down here on Harding Way. So they were kind of backdoor neighbors to us. And the main thing I remember was the hot peppers that they used to grow and share in the neighborhood. But, and Andrew was just a couple years older than I was, so I played with him. Fairhaven, don't forget that we're still supporting Fairhaven, that we have many people on the board, and they're having their auctions shortly, so check that out. You have a piece in your bulletin about that. Church camps. Our youth fellowship has been very active in the church camps. They used to clean the woods after a windstorm that blew down a lot of trees, and they went there once to build ramps. And our confirmation classes, that was part of their confirmation, was to go to confirmation camp at Temple Hills every year. So we've been very active in that also. All right, next slide. Okay, supporting our missions. Several annual events help to support the many mission efforts. The annual Harvest Bazaar involved most of the church circles. Afghans, mincemeat, cinnamon rolls, sauerkraut, and apple butter were just a few of the items sold to provide money for our church missions. And all those things were homemade. They also had, the whole downstairs was full of things to buy. They had a room full of crafts. They had a room full of plants. They had vegetables. They had rugs. They had baked goods. They had candy. Oh, the smells when they were making the candy. It smelled so good in here. And they had lunch. There was lunch every day with chicken sandwiches and everything else. We had many circles in the church at one time. And I may miss one here too. The Frida Circle, Dorcas, Genesis, Friendship. And now the only one we have is Genesis Friends, which was a combination of Genesis and Friendship. Not only did the bazaar support our missions, but we also had many dinners in the church. There was the mother-daughter banquet. Anybody remember those? I tied Gretchen Burdett for the longest pigtails one year. The father-son banquet, the Advent dinner. We used to have to sell tickets for that because everybody wanted to go to that one, and there wasn't room for everybody in the dining room. We used to have birthday dinners where everybody sat at their month of their birthday, and they had a decorated cake for that particular month. The shrimp boil used to be a fun one. We ate with our fingers. Thanksgiving is still going on. That's coming up. Doug Court is still cooking for that. The youth fellowship used to have spaghetti after every annual meeting. And of course, the corn roast, we're still doing it. All right, music reaches our souls. From the choir at the old brick church to the large choir of the mid-20th century, our outstanding music program is a hallmark of each church service. Now, Brian Trish will tell you that I'm in the picture on the left, but I'm not. But I am in the picture on the right, as are two of my children. That was a wonderful time when we had that many people in the choir. This church has been blessed with many, many, many wonderful musicians to lead that choir. Every choir director that I had a degree in music, and that means a big difference. That makes a big difference in how you learn and what you learn. I started out with Miss Bottle. Anybody remember Miss Bottle? Okay, oh good. Mrs. Showers was there. Ruth McKibben took over and was here for many, 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 many years. And John and Stephanie Sikora now are both professors of music. The organist, Mim Sayre, was here for as long as I can remember. That's probably why I have a love of classical music, because she always played classical music for her prelude and her postlude. Marcia Burkhart, Chris Coe, Jen Albaugh, and Jessica Hammond are all the wonderful music people that we have now. There was a church orchestra at one time. My sister was in it, and I know that Dan Eichhorn's dad, Lowell, was in it. But other than that, I don't know much about it. If anybody knows anything about the orchestra, let us know. Next picture. The youth choir, bell choir, and talented instrumentalists have contributed to the ongoing quality of our worship services. Connie Eichhorn was the director of the junior choir when this picture was taken. And that's Marcia and, is it Chris Coe? I wasn't sure. So that's Marcia and Chris Coe on the pianos there. And the bell choir started out as the Donald J. Velm Memorial Bells. Well, that still is the Donald J. Velm Memorial Bells. And you purchase bells in octaves. And I think we started out with just 2 octaves. So in other words, the 1 octave is middle C through high C. And then your next octave is a few bells below and a few bells above. So you keep growing that way. So each octave gives you more bells on either end. I think we're up to 5 octaves now. And we also have added chimes now. So that's the bell choir. The message in special services were often enhanced by biblical characters. The one on the left is Christmas Eve service, and that's Dennis and Carla Russell with Kaylee. That was a special thing for our young people to do, is to portray Mary and Joseph and the baby on Christmas Eve. I know at least 2 of my grandkids were baby Jesus at one time. The other one is an Easter sunrise service. That's my son Chuck Musselman playing Jesus. And that's Dan Eichhorn and Larry Nye, who were centurions. Every Easter we had a sunrise service, and it was usually a big production, a big play. And even though we didn't have a whole lot of money for costumes or anything, I mean, I don't think those shields would guard much with cardboard and foil. But anyways, the Sunday school had a Christmas program every year. Doris Burkhart used to write little plays for the Sunday school. And the one year I was Mary in the Street of Hearts. We had hearts all along here. I'll show you how long ago that was, when these steps weren't here yet. And Joseph and I stopped at each heart, and one heart, the lady says, "Oh no, I'm too busy. And the one lady says, no, I just cleaned house, you can't come in here." Anyways, we went down the whole street until we got the very smallest little heart at the end. And that's where we were allowed in. And the person in that heart had to go outside in order to have room for Mary and Joseph inside. So Doesn't matter what size your heart is. Okay. All right, this float has a special place in my heart. That's where Keith and I first started dating, working on that float. That's the bicentennial float. We made it out at Dave and Connie Eichhorn's place. Dave did all the woodwork, of course, and Connie did a lot of the artwork. I went to check. I think the stained glass window is still in the hall. Is it? It's still up there. Okay, it's up there still. Sports, we had lots of sports in our church. Dart ball was the mainstay. It was here for years and years, and you can see there that they won trophies. We also had a co-ed softball team. Keith and I played in that. We had 2 volleyball teams, and we had a golf team also. So sports was very important. Okay. Leaders in the era of prosperity. Reverend Donald Velm and Reverend John Miller were instrumental in growing and maintaining our church during the period of church history. So Reverend Velm, I had him for catechism. And I remember that was a little bit of a controversy because he didn't use the Heidelberg catechism. He brought in the new modern catechism, and it changed the church a little bit that way. And he used to take us on trips. We went to a Jewish church, and we went to a Catholic church, and discovered other religions and other ways that people worship God. And some people didn't like that either. He also, like I said, was the one that started the day camp out there. It was in Shively's Woods is where we had day camp. Mrs. Velm was the one that helped with the crafts. She was also one of our Sunday school teachers. And just a personal note, Keith and I were the last wedding that he performed. John Miller, he started the Joyriders, which is a very big part of my life. I'm still part of the Joyriders. It's a camping group. We've gone all over the place. We went to New York, Michigan, Myrtle Beach, on and on and on. He also started the church camp out at Low Miller's Pond. Even if you weren't a camper, you could come out for Sunday morning service over at Low Miller's Pond, and Nelda always grew a bunch of flowers so that there was a big bucket of flowers on the altar out at Low Miller's Pond. And John eventually became our pastor emeritus. So I hope that this brought back a few memories for you, whether here at First Church or whether in your own church. And I hope that we can keep growing our church and keep these things alive. Thank you.